Hey there, my name is Darmin, and after years of dealing with debilitating depression and anxiety, I took it upon myself to overcome these issues. And I'm now one of the founders of BeriBera, an organization whose entire purpose is to help you live happier and healthier. And in this video, we're going to be discussing anxiety during this coronavirus pandemic. Anxiety is something that many of us have struggled with at some point in our lives. In fact, I would even argue that all of us experience it from time to time. It's just that some are affected by it more than others. Well, when you throw in a worldwide pandemic over a potentially deadly virus, that anxiety starts to take a greater hold within people's lives. Anxiety about getting the virus, about losing your job, about the market uncertainty, or about anything else related to it. So, what can we do? Now, the first thing that we need to understand is where anxiety comes from. There's something called the default mode network. And what it is essentially a network of brain regions that are active when we're not interacting with the world, when we're essentially just sitting there. And it leads to thinking about ourselves, about other people, about the past, and about the future. And these are thoughts that can get very negative very quickly. But when we engage in activities that don't activate the default mode network, we essentially get lost within those activities. And so those thoughts that would otherwise lead to negativity, they aren't present because our attention is focused on something else. That said, the first step that we can take to keep anxiety at bay during this pandemic is to stay busy. Keeping busy with work or your hobbies or any goals that you might have is extremely important during this time, especially when it comes to our hobbies or any goals that we may have. This is honestly the perfect time to start working on them because now we have all of this time that we may not have had in the past. Moving on, the second step that we can take is positive social interaction. Now, I completely understand that the whole point of this is to stay at home and to avoid large groups, but depending on where you are in the world and what the laws are around you, you may be able to invite a friend over to your home. Social interaction is critical to our mental health, and it thus helps to fight against anxiety. So spending just a short while with a positive friend of yours can make a massive impact. But you have to make sure that they are indeed positive and optimistic in nature, because if you spend time with someone who's negative and pessimistic, especially about this whole situation, that's only going to make it worse. It's only going to bring you down further and is going to spike that anxiety. But if you're unable to, or you don't feel comfortable seeing people, then you can always give people a call, or even with these video chat technologies nowadays, you can really utilize those to get at least some sort of interaction with people. We need to continue to stay connected to others, even if that doesn't mean seeing them in person. The third step that we can take in order to keep anxiety at bay during this pandemic is to keep social media and or news to a minimum. Too much news in particular is only going to make anxiety worse because news tends to focus on the negative. You need to understand that news media has to keep their ratings high and have to keep their views high. And one of the best ways to do that is through very sensational stories that suggest that the world is coming to an end. Now, sure, you want to stay aware of what's going on, but keep it in small doses. And social media as well can be a place for lots of negativity, especially when it comes to those comment sections where people start to argue about different things. So really try to keep these at a minimum. The fourth step that we can take is to be mindful of the anxiety. Now, if you're not familiar with mindfulness, it's the state of being aware of your surroundings without judgment. So what this means is that whenever you start to feel anxiety creep in, you want to become aware of it and not judge it. Don't get frustrated about the anxiety or start to ruminate on it. Just notice it and accept it. If you do this, the anxiety will start to go away much quicker. Because whenever we start to get frustrated about it or get anxiety about having anxiety, then this just adds fuel to the fire. So again, just notice it and accept it and understand that it too will pass. Everything has a beginning and an end, and anxiety is no different. Mindfulness is an incredibly powerful tool, I know from personal experience, but please understand that it's not easy. It's like a muscle that must be strengthened through continuous repetition. And as that muscle begins to get stronger and stronger, that anxiety will start to dissipate quicker and quicker until ultimately you get to the point where anxiety will start to go away almost as quickly as it appeared. So again, don't get frustrated if it's not working at first. Mindfulness does work. It's just difficult and it takes time. But remember, you want to just simply notice the anxiety and accept it. Moving on, another step that we can take is to meditate. So this goes along with the last step, mindfulness. In fact, meditation is a form of mindfulness. To meditate is to simply focus your attention on something. So for example, you can meditate by focusing on your breath. If you've never meditated before, there are a plethora of great resources out there, but even just implementing 5 minutes of meditation into your day will do wonders when it comes to fighting anxiety. I personally attribute the majority of my recovery from depression and anxiety to meditation. It's something that I've done for over 5 years now, and honestly, it's something that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Now, just like with mindfulness, meditation also takes time to get good at. It's like a muscle that must be strengthened. So just keep in mind, whenever you go to sit down and focus on your breath, your mind will wander, but this is normal. The fact that your mind is going to wander is actually the natural state of an untrained mind. But just remember that as you notice it start to focus on different thoughts while you're trying to meditate, don't get frustrated and angry, but rather simply and gently revert your attention back to your breath. And each time you do that, you're strengthening your focus muscle. It's like a rep at the gym. And finally, the last thing that we're going to discuss is exercise. Exercise is important for so many different reasons. It keeps your body healthy, it boosts your immune system so that it can fight things like viruses, and it has a mental impact by boosting confidence, reducing stress, and turning off that default mode network. Now, though gyms may be closed at this time, you can always do at-home bodyweight exercises, or you can even find an outdoor gym to do some calisthenics. Calisthenics is something that I personally do. I used to work out at a gym, but about 9 months ago, I made the switch. Essentially, it's bodyweight workouts that can be done at any outdoor gyms or even any playgrounds. And you'd be surprised by what you can accomplish with just your body weight. I've seen incredible results since I made the switch, and I've only continued to get stronger. That said, if you'd like to do home workouts or would want to try out calisthenics, there's plenty of great resources out there, and I'll go ahead and link a few at the bottom. Now, to summarize, the steps are staying busy, positive social interaction, limiting social media and or news, mindfulness, meditation, and finally, exercise. You don't necessarily need to do all of these, but the more that you do, the better that you'll feel and the less anxious that you'll be. That said, stay strong out there. We will get through this and the world will go back to normal. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe. Now get out there and beat that anxiety.